Good morning. Announce for the delay, we will start at 9:05 because one presenter hasn't arrived yet. Please kindly understand, and we will start at 9:05. Thank you. Okay, let me start. Okay, time is up, so we will start shortly. Please have your seats, please. Okay. Distinguished guests and ladies and gentlemen, thank you for attending the Korea Pavilion side event at COP28 this early in the morning. This is joint event between the Local Government Association for Climate and Energy Transition and the Local Government for Sustainability Korea. My name is Jiwon Choi, the Secretary General of the Local Government Association for Climate and Energy Transition, of which Secretariat is Climate Change Center, the very first NGO specialized in climate change in Korea. Today, we are holding this event to discuss an important topic, empowering local governments in climate adaptation. As the climate crisis escalates, the imperative for climate adaptation has never been more pressing. It is a dynamic response to the changing climate conditions aimed at reducing vulnerabilities and building resilience in the face of inevitable impacts. In this critical juncture, the role of local governments emerges as indispensable in translating global climate goals into tangible, community-specific actions. So we aim to share knowledge and provide examples of how local governments are preparing for climate adaptation. During today's event, we will get a chance to hear the perspectives of diverse sectors. Joining us today are leaders, experts, and practitioners who are making a significant impact in climate adaptation and mitigation as well. Thank you, panelists, for your presence today, and I'm looking forward to better understanding adaptation in local level and steps that need to be taken by stakeholders, including local governments and civil societies. Today's event will start with two distinguished hosts from co-organizers. First, we will have an opening remark of Mr. Ik-hyun Kwon, chairperson of the Local Government Association for Climate and Energy Transition, with video message.
안녕하십니까. 기후위기 대응 에너지 전환 지방정부 협의회 회장을 맡고 있는 보안군수 권익현입니다. 먼저 제28차 UN 기후변화협약 당사국 총회 한국 홍보관 부대 행사를 주최하게 되어 매우 기쁘게 생각합니다. 이번 행사를 함께 준비해 주신 이클레이 한국사무소 박연희 소장님과 재단법인 기후변화센터 유영숙 이사장님께도 감사의 인사를 드립니다. 또한 본 행사에 참여해 주신 CDP의 마이야 쿠트너님, ADPC의 세나카 바스나야케님, IGES의 야스카 카타오카님, KEI 국가기후위기 적응센터 강주연 박사님께도 진심으로 감사의 말씀을 드립니다. 이제 기후위기는 누구나 피부로 느낄 수 있을 정도로 우리의 일상을 위협하는 수준이 되었습니다. 산불과 폭염, 극한 호우와 도시 침수 등 기후 변화로 인한 재난의 피해 규모가 해가 갈수록 커지고 있습니다. 이에 지역 주민의 안전과 행복을 책임지고 있는 우리 지방 정부는 지역에서 기후 적응의 중요성을 절실히 체감하고 있습니다. 올해는 온실가스 감축에 관한 전 지구적 이행 점검이 시작되는 해이자 파리 협정 제7조 제1항에 따른 적응 목표의 프레임워크를 구축하기 위한 논의가 펼쳐지는 중요한 해이기도 합니다. 온실가스 감축과 적응의 중요성에 대한 글로벌 차원의 공감대는 이미 형성되어 있으며 이것을 적극적으로 이행하고 보완할 부분을 찾는 것이 무엇보다 중요한 시기입니다. 이런 취지에서 효과적인 온실가스 감축을 위한 도시의 역할과 기후 적응에 대한 논의하는 것은 매우 중요하다고 봅니다. 따라서 이번 행사를 통해 도시들의 기후 적응 정보 공시 트렌드를 파악하고 각 지역에 적합한 기후 적응 방안에 대한 고민을 나눠보고자 합니다. 지난 3월 발표된 IPCC 제6차 보고서는 산업혁명 이전과 대비해 지구의 평균 온도가 이미 1.1도 상승하여 기후변화 대응의 마지노선이라 할 수 있는 1.5도에 도달하는 시점이 이전 예측보다 훨씬 빨라졌다는 점을 경고했습니다. 이에 획기적인 온실가스 감축과 함께 기후 위험을 줄이고 회복력을 높이기 위한 기후 적응이 보다 적극적으로 시행되어야 합니다. 우리 협의회는 지난 8월 30일 인천에서 2023 대한민국 지방정부 기후적응 전원식을 주최하여 234개 대한민국 지방정부들과 함께 기후적응 실천 의지를 다짐한 바 있습니다. 지방정부 단체장을 비롯한 중앙정부의 탄소중립 녹색성장위원회, 환경부와 협력을 강화하고 기후적응 실천 의지를 선언하면서 우리 사회 전 분야가 함께하면 해낼 수 있다는 희망을 엿볼 수 있었습니다. 앞으로도 우리 협의회는 국내의 교류장을 확대해서 보다 실효성 있는 교육을 수립하고 실천해 나가기 위한 노력을 아끼지 않을 것입니다. 다시 한번 참석해 주신 모든 분들께 감사의 인사를 드립니다. 고맙습니다.
Thank you, Chairperson Mr. Khan, for providing the video message to welcome participants to the event. Next, Ms. Yeonhee Park, Director of Local Government for Sustainability Korea, will address her welcoming remark for today's event in person. Please give her a big applause.
Okay, good morning. I'm Yeonhee Park, Director of Korea Office, Local Government for Sustainability. First of all, welcome you all to this session this morning, and also I'm so pleased to be with you at this session. As a co-organizer of this session, I'd like to express my deep appreciation for all the speakers from CDP and ADPC, and also IGES and KEI, and also for the participants to join this session. And also, I have to express my appreciation to the secretariats from the two organizations. They have been working so hard in the preparation of the session. As you know, that ICLE is a worldwide local government association. So ICLE also acts as a focal organization of a local government group to the UN FCCC. So as we call it, ICLE is working for the local government group worldwide to the UNFCCC. Then, so we call it focal contact of LGMA. LGMA stands for the local government and municipalities and authorities. As the focal of LGMA constituency, ICLE organize daily briefing every morning and also release a daily newsletter. So for this opening welcome remarks, I would like to introduce top line of recent daily newsletter. What says is that COP28 presidency announces CHAMP with 63 endorsing partners. You know, the CHAMP stands for the Coalition for High Ambition Multi-Level Partnerships, which is the new initiative from the UAE COP28 presidency. Why this initiative important, why we pay attention more on this initiative is that this CHAMP initiative includes a subnational action and experiences into the development of 2025 NDCs in line with national circumstances, regulations, and legislations. Countries can ensure the next round of climate targets are ambitious as possible. This is the message from the local government worldwide to the climate convention officially. So our session is on the way in paving a kind of new relationship among the various levels of government, including national and local government. So while keeping this message in mind, in mind, based on this new direction, we can focus on the topic today with the fruitful discussions. So once again, welcome you all and thank you very much for joining this conference. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. New Park, for your kind words for the participants and news. From now on, we will have 4 presentations from our esteemed panel of speakers. Today, we slightly changed the order of presentation since Chuyeon Kang, who belongs in the Party of Korea, newly has a meeting at 10 a.m., needs to leave early. So, Ms. Chuyeon Kang, she is the research specialist of Korea Adaptation Center for Climate Change, Korea Environment Institute. She will talk about Republic of Korea's adaptation effort focused on local. Chuyeon, please come forward and have the floor.
Thank you. Nice to meet you. So my name is Juyeon Kang. I'm from the Korea Adaptation Center for Climate Change of Korea Environment Institute. So it's my honor to be here and then in this important event. Today I'm going to share the Korea's adaptation effort, especially focusing on the local. So let me begin. Yes. Let me begin with the introduction with the adaptation cycle. So this is the typical adaptation cycle of typical adaptation policy cycle, and then this diagram was from the UNFCCC. So when we promote the adaptation, we start with the scientific assessment, including the impact and vulnerability and risk assessment. And based on the scientific assessment, we make an adaptation plan and we implement it and monitoring and evaluation. Our Korea's adaptation cycle is the same, follow the same cycle. Sorry. Next, please. So in the meantime, I'm actually in charge of the adaptation negotiation. So I have another meeting at 10 o'clock. So I can be here until the end of the session. But if you have any question, please ask me after this one. So let me begin with the scientific assessment. So the Korea, we have several scientific assessment process. So firstly, we have the Korea Climate Change Adaptation Assessment Report. We have make it regular publication. So recent one is 2020. And we also have integrated impact evaluation of climate change. We call it MOTIV, is kinds of modeling system. And we also have a national climate change risk assessment. So this is the based on our adaptation planning. And the last one is for the local adaptation, but I will introduce it in detail later on. So reason why I introduced the national adaptation policy first is that our local policy is based on the national policy. It's deeply rooted in that. So it's important to briefly understand our national policy first. So next, please. Yeah. Okay. So. Our national adaptation policies actually have legal base. So currently we have based on the Framework Act on the carbon neutrality and green growth coping with climate change crisis. And then our national adaptation effort is participated by the 17 ministry with the Ministry of the Environment as a lead. And then we have a dedicated division for the climate change adaptation under the Ministry of Environment. And actually, you can have three. You can see the three table at the back. Actually, we have the local government, including the regional government and the local government. They are mandated to establish adaptation plan and implement it. And we also have a public institution which manage the major infrastructure like a road and the airport, they are also mandated to establish adaptation plan. So this is our current national adaptation plan. We call it National Climate Change Adaptation Plan. Actually, it's a 5 years rolling plan, so we have to make it in every 5 years, considering the uncertainty of climate change. This is the current version. So we started this national adaptation plan from the 2010. So we are quite early mover. And as you can see, we have various the objective and direction, but I don't go into the detail. I want to show you this figure. It's a comprehensive framework of our third national adaptation plan. The reason why I am showing you this is that this diagram explains our adaptation policies coming from the scientific assessment, and then it's actually end with the monitoring evaluation. So we make a very comprehensive framework, and then we try to make it this policy cycle repeatedly, and then improving as time goes by. So this is the national adaptation plan, and then let me move on to our sub-national effort on the adaptation. So let me start with the scientific assessments once again. So for the local adaptation, the scientific assessments is very important. But when we start working with the local government at the beginning, we realize that some local government has difficulty to assess the vulnerability or impact by themselves. So Ministry of Environment developed this tool, we call it a web-based vulnerability assessment tool to build the climate change adaptation plan. We call it FASTEP. So this tool actually provides this map with our assessment of vulnerability assessment outcome. So the local government can access to this website, and then they can see how vulnerable they are by the sector. So this diagram actually shows the screenshot of the one local community's vulnerability assessment outcome. So it's the expected outcome of expected vulnerability assessment based on the health for the health due to the insect and the rodent. This is the typical. So for our subnational adaptation plan, we have two groups of the local government. So first one is, we call it regional government, so which includes the 17 metropolitan cities and provinces. And then second group is the local government, so 226 cities and counties and district and local government. They are all mandated to establish their adaptation plan and implement it. So this is the typical process of the establishing the subnational adaptation plan. So the box here, climate change and vulnerability and risk assessment. So actually they have to do it by themselves, but some local government has a difficulty to do it. So we try to help those area with a tool. It's called FASTEP. So this is the current progress of our subnational adaptation plan. So for the regional government, the 17 metropolitan cities and provinces, they are actually currently implementing the third regional climate change adaptation plan, starting from the 2022 to 2026. And then 226 local governments, they are actually implementing the second local climate change adaptation plan, starting from the 2018 to 2026. The difference because of their starting point is different, and then their capacities are also different too. So for the regional one, we have annual self-assessment as a monitoring evaluation tool, and then their assessment result is reported to our Presidential Commission on the Carbon Neutrality and Green Growth. And for the local government one, we monitor and assess their implementation on annual basis, but it's not that systemic as the regional government one. So let me share one interesting case of Daegu. Daegu is one of the hottest city in Korea. We call it Africa because Daegu plus Africa. So the citizens from Daegu always suffering from the severe heat. So the Daegu metropolitan city, they initiate the comprehensive plan to mitigate the heat wave damages. So what they did is that they had three projects. The first one is called 안심할수. It's a disaster management platform with application. So when we have a heat wave or something, they can actually see those impact, and then they can actually find out the place they can rest. And for the second one, they implemented some of the heat mitigation facilities, such as a cooling pool. And the last one is that the Daegu City, they wanted to have some citizens with initiative. So it's actually a free rental sunshade. So the citizens, they are sharing the sunshade at the metro stations so that they can escape from the heat. So this case was chosen as one of our best examples from the regional government adaptation. So it's my personal opinion, but I would like to give you some questions and then something to think about together about the local government adaptation. When we talk about the local government adaptation, the first thing we always hear is the capacity of local government. Yes, their capacity is very varied. Some governments doing well, but some governments has a problem. But I always believe that there is a capacity there. What we need to do is enhance it a bit. So I have been observed many local government from the beginning, and then past 10 years we have actually observed that many local government capacity has been increased significantly. Now, if you go to Korea, if you ask any government officer in Korea, do you know the climate change adaptation? They know that. Just we need time and resources, because the resources are always limited. And the problem of the climate change adaptation is that it's a long-term process. There is no immediate outcome we can see. So I always think that the time and resources should be provided, and then something like institutional resources should be needed. In our case, we have my own center, Korea Adaptation Center for Climate Change. We have a dedicated center for adaptation, and this center actually provide the regular training and workshop to the local governments every year, like several times a year. So this kind of consistent effort is needed. And the linkage between national and local effort, it's really important, but sometimes when we do the work, we do our own work, but its linkage is quite difficult. So this one should be I think is highlighted more. And the last one is, I personally believe that we need to engage the leaders in the process more, because I know that many of the local government, adaptation is not their top priority. It's one of the last priority. So I always think that who will decide whether adaptation is important or not? It's their leaders, mayors. They will decide. They will make a decision whether the adaptation is a matter of security or matter of welfare of their citizens or not. So this August, this September, we work with this local government association on the Korea local government adaptation declaration. Surprisingly, 96% of local governments, they actually pledge their will to work for the adaptation. So once the leaders understand the adaptation is important, and then they promise us to work together, I believe that we will see the positive outcome in the coming years. So Thank you very much. And if you have any, if you are curious about the Korea's adaptation plan, actually we submitted our adaptation communication to UNFGCC. So this presentation is based on that. So you can have further information on this. And if you want to make any networking and further cooperation with ours, please send email to me, then I will connect you to the local government team. So thank you very much.
As mentioned, she needs to leave early, so we will have all discussions after all presentation done. But if anybody has a question for her, now is the time. Please raise your hand. Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Kang, for your presentation. I will just focus on the last slide, the last point.
Yes.
You said that in the local government you do not have adaptation is the last priority.
Yes.
What about your experience in the national level?
Oh.
Because in our South Asia, we say that if there is a political will, things
Yes.
will happen. If there is no political will,
Yeah.
how much good it is for the community, no one works. So what's your
Yeah.
experience at the national level?
It depends on the leader. I mean, so someone has interest in the climate change and adaptation, and they had a strong drive. He or she has a strong drive on it, but someone doesn't have much interest. So it applies to our national level adaptation as well. But we have we have a framework in government, and then we have a institution like us. So sometimes we have a support from the leaders, but if not, we still have an institution and framework, so we still do our work. Thank you.
Anybody? Then
Thank you.
now you can leave, Julian.
Sorry,
Okay,
one more. Thank you for the presentation. I'm just wondering, you talked about resources, but it wasn't clear to me what resources are currently available to support local governments with their adaptation planning. Is it just coming out of the existing revenue, or is there any additional revenue streams for them?
Okay. So for the at the beginning of adaptation planning, for the first adaptation planning, we had a matching fund. So when the national government has a 50% of the budget for the planning, and the local government, they had to mobilize another 50% for the planning. But now we are on the third version of our adaptation plan. So most of the adaptation planning budget is already incorporated their local adaptation, their budget. But for the project, the specific project, we have a sort of competition. so Ministry of Environment, we open the sort of competition, then we will provide some of the seed money for the chosen cases. Thank you.
Okay, now we can let her go. Thank you, Ms. Julian Kang, for your excellent presentation. I was happy to hear about the joint declaration of local governments because we were the secretariat for that event. Okay, let's meet next speaker, Ms. Maya Kuttner. She is the Global Director of Cities, States, and Regions from CDP Worldwide. She will talk about trends and implications in local government climate adaptation disclosure. Maya, please come forward and present for 10 minutes.
Thank you all very much. Can you hear me okay? Yeah, first of all, thank you so much for the invitation. It's an absolute pleasure to be here today. We've been working, my team has been working with the ICLEI team for so long, and this is the first time that I'm meeting a lot of people in person, so it's really a pleasure. So I'll talk to you today about disclosure. And before I do that, just a few words about CDP so you know what we are and what I'm talking about. So CDP is the environmental disclosure system for companies, cities, states, and regions. On an annual basis, we support over 20,000 organizations in their climate disclosure. And in terms of our work with local governments, or with subnational governments rather, so we've got over 1,100 cities, states, and regions all over the world reporting through our system, which is called CDP ICLEI Track. And the question is, why do we focus on disclosure? We've operated for about 20 years in kind of the voluntary sector, and the theory was simple, which is you can't manage what you don't measure. But in addition to that, these days, the data that is reported by all these entities goes to investors, to decision makers, to policymakers. It goes in IPCC reports, and increasingly also used by national governments to inform their own policies around mandatory reporting or about climate change. So I'm going to provide a few global insights about what the data is telling us around adaptation disclosure for cities and local governments. So a few words about the questionnaire that we send. It's quite comprehensive, and it covers both mitigation and adaptation and climate resilience. So it's very interesting to look at what cities are saying, and here I will focus on the global view rather than Korea specific. So first of all, the first step, and we've heard here about kind of the life cycle of adaptation, the first step is the climate risk and vulnerability assessment. So our colleagues in ICLEI work very closely with local governments to do these things. So what is the data telling us? A lot better than a few years ago. So actually globally, we see that over 70% of local governments have a climate risk and vulnerability assessment, okay? So that is really a lot better. A few years ago, it was just under 50%. So definitely a trend to have more local governments being aware of the risk, which is really the first step. But what does that mean about the ones that aren't prepared? So what they're telling us is there's multiple reasons for not undertaking a climate risk and vulnerability assessment on the local level. The first one is lack of expertise and technical capacity, which is, of course, how organizations such as ICLEI contribute. The other one is lack of financial capacity, which I'm sure you will hear in any event, in every event about local governments. The other thing is about higher priorities. Again, we talked about that. But at the same time, cities all over the world are telling us that they're already being impacted by climate change, which is, again, very different from even when I started working in this area 15 years ago. 80% of cities are telling us now that they're experiencing significant climate hazards, such as extreme heat, heavy rain, drought, flooding. We're on the record for this year being the hottest ever. So I think, and we know that local governments are the first ones to feel it. So I believe that it's more critical than ever to really think about these barriers and make sure that our cities and our infrastructure and our people are prepared. The next thing is the target. What goals or targets are local governments setting with regards to adaptation? So again, an improvement from the past few years. We see that that most local governments have a certain goal that covers adaptation. But it's fair to say that there's a bit of inconsistency as to how this is defined or how this is measured or quantified. And there's still like a significant proportion of local governments that do not have this goal. What about planning and climate action plans? So again, more than half of plans address adaptation and resilience. Okay, but there's still a large proportion of climate action plans that don't. Finally, on the issue of actions, and with actions, I'm sure we'll hear of many examples of what cities or local governments in Korea are doing to adapt to climate change. But what we are seeing is that through our questionnaire, cities are reporting the needs for finance that they have to implement their actions. And out of this, about of the third of the actions that are reported that require financing are resilience related, or at least have a resilience component to them. Many of these in the global south, and of course we know the issue of finance is very, very significant. So Here, I'll just summarize and say that I think we are seeing positive trends. So we are seeing growing awareness. We're seeing a growing number of local authorities thinking about these things. Of course, it's great news to hear about the developments in Korea, and I think that can definitely be an example to other governments around the world. And I think the learning from the implementation of this rule will be very, very important and helpful. But we are seeing globally that there's still huge gaps that unfortunately aren't fully preparing us on the local level to adapt to the impacts of climate change that we're already experiencing all over the globe. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Maya, for your excellent presentation with full of experiences, and it was very informative. Next presenter is Mr. Senaka Basnayake. He is the Director of Climate Resilience at Asian Disaster Preparedness Center and will present in the title of Urban Risk Management, Strategies in Response to Climate Change. Senaka, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Very good morning. At the outset, let me thank CCC, Climate Change Center, as well as ICLEI and other associated partners for inviting Asian Disaster Preparedness Center to be here and to share our sort of experiences on this, urban risk management. I'm coming from, as I was mentioning, ADPC, Asian Disaster Preparedness Center. It is an intergovernmental organization, or we can say autonomous international organization based in Thailand, Bangkok, Thailand. So we have been working in the region more than 37 years with a specific the vision, safer communities and sustainable development through DRR. So we are kind of DRR organizations to address the issues with the climate as well as the disaster risks. We have country offices like Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Nepal, and we do have a couple of other project offices in the region, Asia and the Pacific. So geographical remit is like Asia and the Pacific. We have been, like as I was mentioning, working more than 3 decades in the region. So my specific topic today is urban risk management strategies. So what strategies that ADPC has been using or implementing the work to improve this, the resilience to climate extremes in particular. If I move forward, so this report tells the story about the challenges that we have been facing in the region, Asia and the Pacific, and other regions as well. The challenges as well as challenges to the development goals. So maybe because of various reasons, of course, population growth is one of the things. Of course, many people are moving into cities. It has been the case. It will be the case to the future as well. So what we need, the report emphasize, which is ESCAP, is we need to have sort of localized SDGs, localized sort of sustainable development goal. We are here in this week or 2 weeks. Actually, this is a climate change adaptation. The Paris Agreement, UNFCCC work, as well as the UNDRR, Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction. So those are the global frameworks. So globally, there is a strong push for us to do it, but as it is equally important for us to, in countries, to get together and work together and to sort of implement those strategies. That's the number one. So these are some of the statistics that you all know. So from 1950 to 2018, as well as the projection, the percentage of the population each and every country, you can see that the darker of course, the percentage is higher. As of now, you all know that global population, the half of the global population, nearly 55%, is living in cities. It is projected to be 68% to the future. So you can see here, as well as by the year 2050, so the more than 70% of the population of each and every country is living in cities. So we'll have so much of the pressure on this, not only the sort of risks that we are getting from the climate as well as the disaster risks. So we need to sort of like have that sort of approach how to address these the issues. And the graph, it says that the region by region population growth. So you can see the darker line up over here. So it's Asia. So the Asia region is having like much more higher population growth to the future. So we are very much vulnerable as the region is in the Pacific. So we'll have to have like maybe more strategic way of addressing this the risks, climate as well as disaster risks. So this graph tells the story about the disaster as well as the climate related risk. You can get an idea. This is from the IPCC report, 6th annual report. So that I have like marked this the first slot, that is hydrological and meteorological. If you see the regions, Asia is getting much higher sort of like the issues. I mean like the risks. And if you move away, even geological or even climatological, still the same in the biological as well up to a certain extent. So here it tells the story about like more kind of like we need to be prepared for the risks we are getting from the hydrodynamic events, extreme events. And ADPC, let me start the story from here. Like other institutes, of course, ADPC is also making efforts to sort of address these similar risks, like urban risk as well. Here in today the discussion, our approach actually we are using some sort of core principles. We use science. We need science-based information to understand risks, urban risks. Then we develop systems to manage, and of course, finally we apply those systems to reduce the risks. So these are core principles: science, systems, and applications. And we have been like closely working, supporting the global agendas to implement in the countries, like other institutes, new urban agenda in particular to this session, as well as I was mentioning, Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction, SDGs, as well as the Paris Agreement. And the right hand side, the key domains of intervention in this particular urban resilience work at ADPC. As I was mentioning, like when it comes to risk management, like other institutes, like Ms. Junho was highlighting from KEI. So first we need to understand risks. So the risk assessment is important, whether it is climate risk assessment or even geological. So in this particular case, risk assessment in general. And then we strengthen sort of systems to climate extremes by improving the early warning systems, as well as then of course we need to have proper governance system, risk informed governance systems. And of course community empowerment, which is like if you do everything together, like maybe that's national level, it doesn't enough. So you need to work with the people who are really at the ground, who are really having facing the problems, in order to empower their community. And then sectoral preparedness, when it comes to cities, the many sectors are involved, like wash and health, and other transmission, I mean the energy transmission, or even road sector, as well as we also use like NBS, nature-based solutions to reduce risks. It's a kind of like as a measure. So this is a broader thing. So I'm going to provide you some indication, some understanding what ADPC has been using in the past. And one of the main strategies that we used actually in this whole process of risk management, in particular urban risk informed planning. That's most important thing. So we have seen many countries, many cities, they do have master plans, they do have proper plans, but probably it was developed 10 years or 15 years or 20 years back, but the risk part, the risk sensitive part was not very well integrated. Because even if they integrated 10 years back, it may not be the situation now because of the climate change. The extremes are changing, intensity as well as frequency. So you need to revisit and then integrate those into the. So what we did in Bangladesh, so maybe you have seen this photo before. So this is Rohingya camps in Bangladesh, Cox's Bazar. So we supported the UNHCR. Actually, what we did sort of hazard zonation map for the landslide in that particular community, and we did for them actually. Then what we realized actually towards the end, because it was done early 2018, just setting up the camp, it was very unplanned because there was a lot of pressure. The people came to that site, and then it was not very well planned. So we did this the hazard mapping, and we informed and they were able to take some decision to move out the communities from the risk areas. And here the impact and achievements I am highlighting here actually, same year in June, during the monsoon season, they have a couple of cyclones as well, one cyclone in particular. And then 2021, 2023, the monsoon period, we realized that there were some landslides. But fortunately, they were able to evacuate, beforehand, based on the risk map that we provided. So it's a kind of like, one of the efforts from our side, risk-informed planning, which is important, as I was trying to highlight in other cities as well. So the second example from the same city, same camp actually, this is for flood. So we also did the flood hazard assessment, and with the support from UNHCR, the same thing happened. So after the exercise, and they were able to, of course, make some adjustments according to our planning. That's actually to develop emergency response plans as well as land use and future development planning for that particular area. They were able to do it, and during the same events, like June 2018, 2021, 2023, the monsoon events, those areas were flooded. Actually, they were able to minimize the risks because of the proper planning. This also from again risk informed planning from the same country but different city. What we did actually, we revisited the functional master plan and detailed area plan. This is a kind of like, let's say, master plan. We revisited in Russia the development with the Russia area, Russia city development plan. So we revisited Russia development, the metropolitan plan, and to be more risk sensitive. So we identified the 4 hazards, like the drought, flood in particular, drought, as well as fire and earthquake. So we did very detailed risk assessment for those hazards, and then we revisited the master plan, especially the functional master plan and detailed area master plan, and then we revised it and then submitted to them. So one of the intermediate outcome was like the way the plan that we submitted, it was approved by the government, like the Ministry of Housing and Public Works of the government, Bangladesh, and it was gazetted this year, January, and for the next 20 years, they need to follow that plan. So this also I am categorized under this risk informed planning, so which we ADPC did it. And this is a kind of mixed thing here. So in addition to risk informed planning, so the community empowerment is also important. And then we did some work like in Myanmar under one of the projects. So we did very detailed risk assessment, and then of course we provided them so that now they made some plans. And this is the similar project, sectoral preparedness. Here you can see some maps, very detailed risk assessment we did under this project for 2 cities in Vietnam. That is Metho, to the south, that is a red, the lower Mekong Delta, and the Nam Dinh to the north, that is a red river. So we did risk assessment, and then we informed them to make some sort of adjustments to the plan. You understand the fact that when we work with the the countries or the cities, we can only make some plans or the recommendations. So it's up to them to sort of integrate into that. And I know that now I'm running out of time. So this is also another exercise that we did. After developing the very detailed risk map for that particular city, Metho, we also realized that they have developed the master plan several years back, 2030. So then we recommended them to revisit and make some adjustments based on the risk assessment that we did it. Community empowerment is also important. That's another strategy that we have been using. Of course, you need to build their capacity through sort of community-based disaster management exercises, and so on and so forth. This is from Thailand. So it's a quite similar thing. It's a very much community-based activity. So we develop them sort of emergency plans, response plans for them to sort of take some actions. Nature-based solutions, one of the good examples. I'm not telling any sort of specific project here. So we have been now implementing a project funded by the IKI, German. We are working with IUCN to implement this project in 2 cities, one in actually the Surat Thani, the other one is Chiang Rai in Thailand. So we are we are doing, ADPC is doing sort of a climate inclusive risk assessment for IUCN to sort of go forward and introduce nature-based solutions. With that, these are some of the things that tools that we develop. We do have capacity to develop future scenarios for the cities. So downscaling from low resolution to high resolution, as well as we also develop sort of tools risk visualization tool here, Mobilize. So once you develop risk assessment, so there should be a place or the sort of like software to visualize. It is something like if you develop something and if you keep in your laptop, it doesn't really make sense for others cannot see it. So we introduced this tool so that city people or even community people can access this risk informed risk information to make adjustments to their risk informed planning. And strengthening early warning system is also important, which highlighted before. So it's a kind of like new way of like thinking, like impact free forecasting and warning. So we also introduced this system to Vietnam, and this is sort of like a decision support system for the Met department, hydromet departments, as well as local authorities to take some decisions if the flood is coming. So that based on the map that the population also we can understand based on the map, the local authorities can take decisions when it is coming and where it goes, so and so forth. With that, I conclude, and sorry for taking much more time. Thank you.
Thank you very much for Sanaka with the great presentation. I regret we don't have much time to hear all about the stories. The final presenter is Ms. Yasuka Kataoka, Program Director of City Task Force of Institute for Global Environmental Strategies, is preparing next and final presentation. She will cover a very interesting topic of enhancing synergies for mitigation and adaptation in cities. Yasuka, thanks for joining us today, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, kind introduction. And then today, the organizer gave me a very difficult topic, which is synergy with mitigations and adaptations, but very important things. I'm from the City Task Force of Institute for Global Environment Strategy. It's kind of environment think tank, sustainability think tank in Japan. And then my research area is more sustainability issues like SDGs and also the mitigation side. So not adaptation side. For the adaptation side, we have adaptation team there. So, but I will try to best to address things there. Okay. And then as the previous speakers mentioned, and then the cities they contribute to a lot of the CO2 emissions, GHG emissions. Two-thirds of the GHG is coming from the urban areas, the IPCC said. And on the other hand, they are very vulnerable to the climate change impact. So the local governments naturally has to address both issues together. And yeah, this is kind of the practice of the IPCC Working Group 3, and then they identify some mitigation measures, and then also they say green and blue infrastructure is important for the mitigation and for the adaptation too. So it's already naturally, they say, that link is already identified scientifically. And in Japan, we always say that mitigation adaptation is two wheels of the bike. So without, if we're missing one of them, it's a little bit difficult to, enjoy the cycling. So, that is what we are saying always. So the mitigation adaptation should be go together always. And then, this is just all information. So for the national rules, define the role of subnational governments or local governments, and request developing regional plans, local plans. And then this is for the mitigation side. You can see the law act on promotion of global warming countermeasure. The prefecture government and also municipality and the small villages and towns has to develop the local action plans, and then almost the medium and large size cities has already done with the mitigation plan. But the challenge is how encourage the small towns and villages. And for the mitigation side, the Climate Change Adaptation Act. Established in 2018, 20 after the Mitigation Act. So the history is relatively new. So and then also this act requested requested the regional and local governments to develop the action plan for the adaptation. So the primary the target is regional governments prefecture. So the all 47 prefecture has already had adaptation plans. And then the ordinance designated city, it's relatively the have more than 1 million population. It's kind of big city. 20 is already there, and the municipality, other municipality 173. So total in 240. The local governments have established the adaptation plans for their own. And then for the and also the there is a regional or local adaptation center which helps the people for the scientific the research and the other things. That is the in total 60 center is established now. And then this information is compiled in APLAT, Information Platform Adaptation. This is a national one, so the people who want to know the information of the local plans, all local plans can be accessed from that one. So, and also the others, so that not only the local governments, so this website will provide somehow the action for business people or individuals. So it's very informative. So if we want to know the adaptation measures and actions, we can access to this one-stop platform. And then so for the as I can also we have international AP Plat. So this is Asia Pacific platform. So that's for the more international one. Okay, so this is action areas identified by the adaptation action. You can see, there is the kind of the very key, essential area for sustainability, and then, maybe it's easily understand that, to cope with these kind of things, more comprehensive approach is important, in addition to the sectoral ones. So so they give me a few minutes to introduce some of the examples. So rather than focusing on the specific adaptation, just the projects. So I introduced the one or two cases which has more integrated approach, which contribute to the adaptation or increase in resiliency of the climate change action. This is Hannan City, Osaka. It's got the middle population cities. So they have, like a city center, but they have a rich natures. And then, so they have, somehow, the lead, well, they have a rich, lead fields, and then also they have some tea plants, and then they want to integrate the carbon neutrality and then also the sustainability or economic revitalization together through the lens of the SDGs. So this is a project supported by the Cabinet Office SDGs Future Fishery Program. And then so the eelgrass habitation, they have a eel habitation area in Hannan City. So one of the actions of integrated actions is the conservation of the eelgrass habitations as a source of the biodiversity, and also the place for the environmental educations, and also the CO2 absorption areas. I think the mitigation effects is a little small, but this impact of this the eelgrass habitation conservation project has a lot of impact to the local people to raise awareness of the mitigation and adaptation both. So, and then this is the one of the good examples identified in national governments. And the other one's very small city, 4,000 people, residents in Shimokawa town in Hokkaido. So they have a rich nature of the forest. So 90% of the land is covered by the forest, and then they utilized the forest resources. So it used to be getting, become a little difficult to manage this forest because the forest owner do not proper, thinning and others. So the forest resources deteriorated, but the cities try to restore that forest, and then they say circular forest management system. So they got forest certificate systems, and also they use the biomass energy from the wooden chips, and then also used that energy for the compact town development. And then also they promote, the zero emission wood processing, and that is for the climate, climate mitigation. So this, shows the more the climate mitigations and also local revitalization of economy. But through these activities, the resilience of the cities has been increased. Okay. Oh, back. Okay, so I don't have time to play the video, but there is also the small city Kuma village, is Kumamoto in Kyushu area. So they are affected by the severe kind of the damage from the landslides and then heavy rains in 2020. 25 people died, and then more than 100 the households is slashed away. And then they are now on the way of the reconstruction or recovery. And then they mentioned that reconstruction not as usual. Creative reconstructions, creative recovery, which is that is more built back together type of the recovery. And then the interesting thing is the decarbonization actions, like biomass energy promotions or self-sufficiency of the energy promotion is the center of their their kind of restructuring plans. So this is very unique, but it's kind of the way of the recently Japanese local government thinking. After recovery, we need to be back better, and also the transformative change has to be promoted. Okay, so so I will skip there. So but this kind of these thoughts is supported by the national government some guidance of principles, like a basic environment plan of Japan has a circulating and ecological sphere concept. That is the somehow the promotion, the recommended the integrated approach of the biodiversity conservations, and then also the climate change mitigations, and also sustainability related issues to promote the well-being. Okay, so and also the other ministries has also encouraged synergistic approach in the local governments. So the synergistic approach is essential, and then in Japan, so such kind of national guidance will encourage more local governments to get into the more integrated synergistic approach. And then still, where I talked with the municipality peoples, still silo approach is there. It's difficult too. Mainstreaming climate actions in the transportation in local plans is very necessary, especially urban master plans. And also the multi-level governance. Without local governments, we only the local governments cannot do. So collaboration with national governments, including some financial supports, and also the local governments, are also working with the business and the local people. So that is very important, and then the leading kind of the municipal government to do that kind of things, and also behavioral changes. So it's kind of related to the previous two things, but this is kind of the key of the transformation. So for that purpose, local governments have more integrated, more comprehensive, or more approach or kind of the actions to change things on the ground. So this is all from me, and then thank you very much for your listening. And then also the local actions can change, the global challenges. So I very much, they appreciate that organizer to they organize this event. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jessica. It was an excellent presentation. Thank you all panelists for your insightful presentations. We are very out of schedule now, and panel discussion will start shortly when floor is ready. Speakers, please step forward and sit in front of the screen. And I will pass over to the moderator, Ms. Bong Hee-son, the Deputy Director of ICLEI, Korea. Ms. Son, over to you, and floor is yours until 10:25.
Thanks, Jiyeon. Hi, everyone. My name is Bong Hee, and then I'm working in ICLEI Korea office. Welcome to this session, and it's really great pleasure and honor to be engaged in this very important discussions for climate adaptation and local level. So I want to invite all speakers to the stage to have panel discussion. Please come to the stage. So we heard a lot from 4 speakers from the world perspective and also from the regional perspective. We heard the trend of global, and we heard also city cases from Asia Pacific. We also learned how local governments are doing in Korea and Japan. So before starting the discussion, I wanna give the opportunity to the floor. So if you have any questions to the speakers, please raise your hand. So unfortunately, we don't have enough time, but we only have, I think, 15 minutes. So please, I give you the opportunity just for 1 or 2 questions from the floor. No questions? Okay, so now I think you consider the time limit. So I give my question to our kind of panelists. We learned a lot from the presentations, 4 presentations from the speakers. So they mentioned a lot kind of good examples, success stories. As Maya also mentioned, the growing number of local governments are thinking about now adaptation. They're actually making plans and actions. Also, we learned about some good examples and tools from the Asia Pacific region, and also learned from Korea. We already have all those national framework, and all local governments are making plans and actions. We also kind of learned from Japan case. We need to also think about how to make synergies between the mitigation and the adaptation. But also many speakers mentioned, but still there are gaps. Still, there are difficulties for local government to implement this adaptation actions. So now I want to ask to our panelists, so from your thought, from your perspective, what would be the most biggest challenge for local government to implement these climate actions? And then how they can solve these difficulties and challenges? So I will kind of from the start. So Director Tanaka, could you please share your thoughts on this?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So as I took a long time during my presentation, I will try to be very brief. I think the challenges that the local authorities, governments, the facing is like, they don't probably have resources. I think financial resources. So we have been discussing about the unlocking financing as well for the local actions or the climate actions. That's one of the things that I see, because they are not probably getting enough resources from the central or even subnational governments for them to take sort of actions. The other thing I think it was highlighted here from your presentation in particular, So maybe the will, that I mean, like, maybe the local authorities, they don't have much understanding about the concept that we have been talking, though they are the people who are really sort of like, suffering a lot, because as grassroots level people, local level people, so they are really getting impacts, but they don't have that sort of like, understanding. So so that's one of the things. Then we also know that we have witnessed many times that locally led actions are the important things. So you need to start from there. So global frameworks, now we are here in these 2 weeks. So all good, actually. There's a sort of like a lot of pressure from the top. I mean, like, global pressure over the regional organizations and national organizations. But it's equally important for the start from that. So I'm trying to emphasize we should have sort of like bottom-up approach. So that's these are the sort of like the challenges that we have seen from. So the opportunities, of course, maybe the local authorities or the local governments, they need to think through it, like make some revisions to their sort of local plans and strategies. So that's probably a starting point, because in order for them to take actions, so sort of governance support should be there. It's a sort of at the local level as well. So maybe they need to think quite heavily about how they sort of make some adjustments to their local plans. So this is the solution part. I also covered the difficulties or the challenges that they have envisioned. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think some of us speakers also mentioned the same things. Resources, of course, that's problem, and capacity building is also important. Also, anyway, the local action, everything should be brought from the local actions. And then also solutions. Also, thank you. Now I'm going to move to Yatsuka. So please share your thoughts on this.
Thank you very much. So I have already mentioned some challenges. So in addition that, and also the IACO has statement, and then also the when I talk with the local governments people on adaptation, so they also said, also the some additional issues can be scientific evidences. People can sense over the climate impacts, but how is the medium terms or long terms, like impact, how, what, scientific evidence is enough for this mitigation, adaptation or mitigation measures. So maybe scientific information is one of the key challenges, but this is a very basic one, but I think political will is more than that. So so that is the thing. So I add just one scientific evidences in addition to his. Thank you.
Also, she mentioned the scientific evidence. Of course, it's very important. So that's why we are also organizing discuss event with the different stakeholders, different research institute. So we need some multi-level cooperation to solve this kind of problem. Of course, political will is one of the most important things. Now I'm going to move to Maya. So Maya, can you please share your thoughts?
Yes, I'll share my thoughts. I'm not going to dwell on the challenges. I think we talked about that. I'll talk more about, I think, the opportunities. So 3 points. First of all, I think it's essential to work on mitigation and adaptation together. This was said again and again. The time of figuring out mitigation and then thinking about adaptation later is over. It's essential we do them together. The second point is around how this links to COP. We heard earlier about the CHAMP announcement. The CHAMP announcement over 63 now, governments committing to include local actions of local governments in their next NDCs. Okay, and also part of that is creating enabling environment for finance. I think this is an opportunity. We know that COP commitments don't always stick, etc., but it is an opportunity, and it's also an opportunity to make sure that when this happens, there's resilience and adaptation included there too. The number 3 is the huge opportunity I hear from Korea specifically. The fact that this is the power of many. ICLEI will know this as a city network. When there's one local government doing something, it's one thing. When there's all the local governments in Korea doing something, learning from each other, having a political voice to express their needs for finance, their needs for capacity building, their learnings with each other, it is extremely powerful, and I think something that can give us hope.
Thank you very much, especially for mentioning CHAMP. CHAMP is the short term for, it's a little bit long, the Coalition for High Ambition Multi-Level Partnership. So, which is new initiative from the COP28 presidents to accelerate the multi-level action from national and sub-national government for climate actions. So I hope you can also promote this CHAMP initiative to the local government, which can create a lot of opportunities for local government, as Maya mentions. Now I want to ask the last question. So what are your expectations from this COP, especially for local government? Just short statement.
If I may, so like others, my expectation is also having more resources for adaptation. I think everybody is on the same page, which we have been, because that's why we all are here. So the negotiations are going on. So we didn't see much in the past for adaptation. So though the statistics says that so much of resources and budget for the mitigation. So now it's changing things, which is really in a good way. And then good to hear, from you as well as the NDCs, sort of new way of thinking, more increase in adaptation actions as well. So that's my short answer. So more funding, more opportunities, more resources for adaptation, which applies to local level as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next, Jessica.
Thank you. So yeah, I very support to CHAMP, and then I think the networks of the cities for the mutual learning, also the multi-level kind of the learning somehow platform, as kind of the more and more local governments get involved in that kind of the initiative is very important. So I'm also I'm personally engaged of the city-to-city collaborations of Japanese and then the Asian cities, and also I'm now engaged in the EU-Japan kind of collaboration of the cities on the sustainable issues, including adaptations. So it's lots of learning. And then it's a lot of enlightenment. So I really feel the importance of the mutual learning among cities. So I think the big expectation for the network enhancement of the cities. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The last, Maya, could you please share what's your expectation from this COP?
Just briefly, we mentioned CHAMP. There was the urbanization pavilion. There's always activities happening. There's also been the local climate action summit in the first and 2nd of December. So really, what I would want is for us to take all these exciting announcements to do with local governments and the collaboration with national governments and really start with the implementation of that immediately. So my hope from COP is that we take this positive momentum and really tangible commitments that came out of it to make a difference in our day-to-days, starting the day after COP.
Okay, thank you. So I want to just summarize kind of our expectation from this COP. More funding for local government, more resources for local government, and then more recognition about the importance of local government roles, and more collaboration, cooperation with other stakeholders, other nations, other cities, and then more political will. I think that's something we are really expecting from the COP. I want to conclude this panel discussion by using the slogan of this COP. This COP slogan is "Hope inspires action, and action builds hope." I want to slightly change this word. Hope inspires action, and local action builds hope. Thank you very much.
Thank you, moderator and panelists. It was an enriching discussion, and the stories and strategies we've heard underscore the notion that the strength of our global response resides in the resilience of our local foundations. To close the you may go to your seats again. And to close the event, Dr. Young-Suk Yoo, the chairperson of the Climate Change Center, is preparing her closing remark for today's event. Dr. Yoo, please coming forward and please give her a big applause.
Esteemed delegate, distinguished guests, and ladies and gentlemen, my name is Yoo Young-suk, and I'm the chairperson of the Climate Change Center. And our center also serves as the secretariat of the Local Government Association for Climate and Energy. As we close this critical side event at the Korea Pavilion of COP28, based on the theme of empowering local governments in climate adaptation, the urgency and seriousness of our conversations resound strongly in the face of rising climate disaster. As the chairperson of the Association of Local Government mentioned, that the IPCC's sixth assessment report bluntly remind us of the impending threat, underlining the critical need to address climate change with a strong emphasis on adaptation. As a group, we've been looking for long-term answers and seen how local governments has the power to make real changes. Local governments are the building blocks of climate protection because they encourage new ideas, include everyone, and get people involved at the local level. Our discussions have shed light on the way forward and made it clear how important it is to work together across borders and beliefs. The Korean local government's joint declaration on climate adaptation action, which was made by 234 local governments during the UNFCCC Adaptation Week last summer in South Korea, shows how determined everyone is to face this issue head on. The goal of today's meeting was to share expertise and highlight instances of how local governments are actively preparing for climate adaptation. The shared experiences and lessons learned serve not only as inspiration, but also as a model for other places dealing with the effects of climate change. Furthermore, the decisions made at COP28 will reverberate through the corridors of power, reaching the farthest reaches of the globe. It is our responsibility to guarantee that the empowering narratives we have created here today and heard by decision makers and resonate with the people who are most affected on the ground. Let us carry the torch of empowerment as we leave this side event, recognizing that the strength of our global response is in the hands of local leaders. We are not merely adjusting to climate change, we are also constructing a resilient and sustainable future for future generations. Finally, I'd like to express my appreciation to all contributors and participants for their great thoughts and dedication. Let our combined knowledge move us forward on our collective journey of empower local governments as a climate adaptation champions. Thank you very much, and may God continue to bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Yu, for summing up this event with your insights. yes, this is all for us, and I hope you enjoy the event. And have a good day. Thank you. 감사합니다. Now we will take a group photo, so please, everybody in the room, come forward to commemorate today's event. All panelists, please come forward.